Hi, welcome back. Today we are with Kate Howe, who's Connecticut medium, and we will discuss something really freaky that happened between the two of us when I called her to come on this show. We are going to do something different today. There's going to be a couple call-ins, and then we're going to introduce Kate as to what she does, how she does, and at the end, we're going to do the same thing we always do, how you can get in touch with Kate. But with me today is Gina Fedorenko, and Kate, and Gina does have a question for Kate. So we'll have Gina go right ahead, Gina.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody.
You're on, Gina.
I am also someone who has lost many in my life, and I was just wondering if there's a way to like communicate and how you go about that, and if anyone's even here today. So that's really what I just think what you do and what you're able to do is amazing. And I just wanted to kind of meet you and just see if there's anything you can give me, even though I know I'm on a computer right now, but
Absolutely. So, well, first of all, thank you for being so open to connecting virtually. A lot of times people have hesitations around virtual sessions or not being in the same room as a healer. What is so amazing about spirit is that spirit does not see space the way we do. Spirit is actually in this universal space that we are all in. So it's the desire for connection that actually creates a connection down here with humans. So as my job as a medium, I absolutely feel energies around you already. I feel like there's a father energy that steps in right away. And I do feel like there's a J initial around you. Is there any John, Joseph, James, anybody in spirit with the J initial or something around the month of June? Anybody born in June, die in June?
not.
Gina?
Yes. You might need to help me out with this, Aunt Connie.
You all right, Gina?
Yeah. I can't think of anybody with a J initial.
Okay. Is there anybody who is a namesake that's born in June that's alive here of somebody who's crossed over?
Yes, my mom. Her
Okay.
birthday is in June. Yes.
Okay, beautiful. So and your mom is still alive here with you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is her father crossed over, your grandfather on that side?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any connection to an E initial that he would also want to talk about? Edward, Eleanor, anything around the E initials? Elizabeth? Or the 5th of a month? Anybody born on the 5th, die on the 5th of any month?
My daughter was born the 5th of the month. Yes.
Okay. So this is his way of acknowledging your daughter. And this is his way of saying that he's very much around her. Now, spirits are not like picky and choosy. When they bring forward evidence around somebody who is very much alive here, they just sort of spotlight them, but they're around everyone. So he's with your mom, he's with you, he's with your daughter. He just decides to talk about your daughter right now. Is there any connection with him also to somebody who's an electrician, a plumber, or something with HVAC?
Yes.
How does this connect with you?
My dad's a plumber and like my whole family's a plumber and he was a plumber.
Beautiful. Notice plumbing symbolism. Now, this sounds kind of weird, but notice weird places that a plunger might be or things that are very symbolic of a plumber. Very often what they'll do is in our physical world, they will put signs and symbols around us that are definitively them. He sends you a lot of cardinals as a symbol and have your mom look for the cardinal as well. Is there also a Mary, Mark, Marie, very strong M initial on your mom's side? Any aunts, uncles that have that initial?
That are still alive?
Yeah, it could be somebody who's here.
Mark, are you saying? Mark, are
An
you
M initial. This could be
or Mark's? Her dad
My-
or brother Mark's? And we
My
have-
brother, my dad.
Yeah.
Is there any connection with you also to a K initial? Is there a Catherine, Kenneth, Kendall, something around the very strong K initial?
Deceased, yes.
Who's this?
My cousin Chris.
Okay, this is Chris's energy coming through. Was this a faster crossing for Chris?
Yes.
Very often what they'll
so.
do is they'll show me something that's very long duration, like years, or they'll sort of show me my clock is ticking, which means my death came unexpected and quickly. Sometimes this is immediate, sometimes this could be weeks or months, but it doesn't feel like Chris's death was the extension over years. And so I feel like Chris is also showing me, do you have a bracelet, something on the wrist, something that, does that make sense for you? What's this?
She left me jewelry and her hair things, and I wear a hair thing that was hers all the time.
Beautiful. So she sees the hair thing on your wrist. She wants you to know that she is always around you. That beautiful circle. I do feel like she also wants to talk about the flowers from her service, and there's something about the flowers either planted for her or something that you saved or might have dried. Is there anything that's rooted in the ground or something you have like on your mantle at your house?
Aunt Connie, can I say something, Aunt Connie?
Yeah.
So that was my Aunt Connie's daughter, and she passed away by suicide.
Okay. This is just some, this might be, is there something that's planted for her or something that she wants to acknowledge is rooted in the ground?
Do you have anything, Aunt Connie? Not necessarily I do, but can she hear me?
Well, that hair tie you talked about already, right?
Yeah. Is there like a tree, a bush, something that's rooted in the ground that symbolizes her, something that you might have planted for her, or something that might have been given to you as a gift to plant?
Not for me, but I don't know if she has anything.
That's all right. And is there any connection to water for Chris? Is Chris connected to the water in any way, shape, or form? Is Chris in the water? Is there something around the shore? Sometimes it's also going to be Maine or Vermont going up north. Any connection to the north for your family?
Definitely the beach, but that's more New Jersey.
Okay.
We spent a lot of time together at the beach.
Beautiful. Whenever you see beach symbolism, anything that symbolizes that nautical, hold on a second. Did you talk to Chris the day before she crossed or like the week before she crossed? Because I feel like she's saying she heard your voice. And it's very important for you to know that Chris made this choice. Chris made this choice, and energetically, this was always going to be the choice that was going to be made. Past life, in this lifetime, I worked in a psych unit with children and adolescents for 15 years. And there were kids who absolutely should have crossed over that did not, and children that did that should not have, in a logical sense. Working with this population and working with my psychic abilities, I did begin to realize that the soul chooses a path. And Chris is almost showing me she is free now. She's free in a way where now she can be a vibrant flower. She's almost showing me when she jumps out of her physical body, it's a relief for her. Because in this lifetime, she was so burdened. There's so many burdens and difficulties where she couldn't seek her own light. And I feel like she's also talking a lot about the tattoo. Is there something about tattoos for her or something around her handwriting specifically?
What was the first part before handwriting?
A tattoo. Yeah, her handwriting or a tattoo.
She had, yes.
Is there any connection also to mermaids for her? Or mermaid tails?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Notice a mermaid symbolism. Might be like a mermaid with the name Chris on top. I feel like she's almost showing me she's sort of like a mermaid in the ocean right now. Now she can finally swim. She's not restricted. And I do feel like she's thanking not only you, but her entire family for trying to support her in her darkest times. And she's apologizing to who had to find her, because she's showing me that is extremely traumatic still to this day. Where is her name also printed, like on a bench, on a brick, something outside of a cemetery? Is there something that's engraved that you have? Are her initials in something that you have?
Not me.
I've given you her jewelry, Jay. I've given you some of her jewelry. Might have
is there anything engraved?
Oh, it's engraved in like a copper bracelet.
This might be what I'm seeing then, because I feel like there's something that's like engraved. Yeah. So no, this is just some validation that she is saying, I'm here. And especially bringing up that bracelet again. I am around you. I can't be anywhere but with you here. It's something I feel like she's also showing me very, very strongly. She sends you a lot of hawks. Notice the big blackbirds on your path. You might see a blackbird that circles you, might land near you. Sometimes might be an oversized crow.
Yes. Oh my God. Literally the other day. Yes.
And this is just some validation that she's like, oh, hey, I can show up in any way, shape, or form. I can be here in any way that you need me to be. And what's beautiful about spirit is that they are freed after they die. That is one of the biggest and most amazing things about our spiritual body. is that it is restricted in here to some degree in our case. But once we are officially done with our human existence here, the release of that soul is absolutely amazing. And they are seeking the light that we all are seeking. They actually produce that light towards us. I do feel like she's also talking about her feet. Did she always have socks on? Were her feet always cold?
Her little toes, I, as her mother, when she was little, she would hold her flip-flops on with her little toes. And so her little toes were weird, so she blamed me. So she always yelled about her little toes. But one thing, and I want Gina to know this is important, I was shocked. We were at the shore, her and her brother and myself, and I did not know how the younger members of the family were impacted by my daughter's very violent death. Gina, her twin Mark said something to me, and I had to tell him that wasn't his fault. And Gina has said, when she called me to go to the concert, I didn't go. Do you think that's the reason? I want Gina to know that's not the reason, that there's nothing to do with her. She's been guilty for 15 years about that.
And important to know too is Chris made this pathway before she even came down to the earth. She made an agreement with her soul. This is how this was going to be. How things play out, we as humans want to logic it out. And then we guilt ourselves and put ourselves in situations where it wasn't our guilt to carry. And I feel like, Gina, you're just naturally an empath anyway, so you tend to take people's stuff on anyways.
I teach emotional support, and my students are in the other room. It's like all day long, yes.
This is what I'm saying, is that like in an energetic map, part of your map is to be an empath, and that means to hold space around those who are troubled in their emotions and in their mind. And it's hard for empaths not to absorb that. We're literal sponges. Like, you're a sponge of Chris. You felt when Chris was okay and when Chris was not. You knew when things were all right and when they weren't. And as an empath, you're always going to want to take some responsibility in somebody else's life, whether it's an amazing responsibility or not so amazing responsibility. But just remember that her soul had this path anyways. This was always going to be. She's being very clear too. And I don't know, Connie, if this makes sense for you, something around the sweatshirt, the sweater, or the blanket, something that goes over the shoulders. Is there any shirts that you have of hers?
And Connie?
I have a shirt of hers. Yeah. I wasn't sure whether she had given, because they were very close. I have her college shirt. Yeah.
Beautiful. Do you ever put that next to you or lay with that or look at that?
In the beginning, it was so horrible that you could still smell her on it. And yes, I would smell her clothes. And I was shocked because the other day I went into the attic, Gina, to look for some photos to send your family. And I opened up the trunk that I had Chris's remnants of what she had left in there. And she was still there. I could smell it. It was amazing.
It was amazing. Yeah.
And what's beautiful about smells, and this is just a little FYI for anybody who might be wondering, the other side sends us smells all the time. We often dismiss them because we're trying to use our eyes, our ears, or our feeling to find them. But smells are the only sense that your ego can't take away from you. So if you're standing in the middle of the woods and you smell that smell of her shirt or whatever it was, your ego can't talk you out of that smell. But your ego can absolutely talk you out of other symbolism, like a bird, like a penny. You can logic that out. Smells you can't when they come out of nowhere. So I encourage you, Connie, to also look for those smells. And Gina, you might smell a particular perfume, a particular food, even like, I've had people say, Kate, why do I keep smelling their deodorant? Things that were like them. So just notice those smells as well. And Gina, I really do feel like she comes to you often in your dream state, and you may not remember all of them, but please know she is speaking to you in such a powerful way when your mind is at ease, which is usually when you're sleeping. Although she does show me you don't sleep at night. You're up a lot. You're not a great sleeper. That's okay, because most empaths aren't. This is usually when our soul travels and we're actually awake somewhere else in the world. That's kind of how the soul...
She visited Gina's house too right after the incident because a friend, Mr. Ross, was there, and he looked up the stairs where that post, the rail is up the stairs, and he called out to my brother, "You have a ghost here. I just saw the bottom of a gauzy like dress go by." I don't know if you remember that, Gina, but it freaked him out. Freaked him out, right? So, do you have any?
Like she does show up in that physical way. So just notice weird things that you see or things that you can't really explain, and never discount your feeling. This is where our loved ones speak to us the most, is in our heart center now. It's also the place where you're grieving deeply. And that's
Right.
why sometimes people say, I don't feel them. Where are they? I don't know where they are. If they're actually so close to you that you're missing the mark, if that makes any sense.
Thank you, Gina. You okay there?
Yeah, that was amazing. I was just wondering, like, I was hoping I could like connect with a few people. So definitely those two were like my top. Is there anybody else?
Is there a William, Wendy, Wanda, very strong W initial connected to you, or somebody who's connected to number 24?
24,
Who's the 24th?
my husband.
Is
Birthday.
your husband still alive here with you?
Yes.
Is your mother-in-law still alive?
Yes.
There's a maternal energy coming in on his side. This might be an aunt. This might be a great grandma. There's definitely a maternal energy coming in to say, hey, I want everyone to know I am so happy to be in spirit, and I'm so happy I can be there too. And is there any connection to December for her, or something around the 12, something around Christmas or a Christmas tree?
That's my dad. His birthday's in December.
Okay. So hold on. So this is what happens. I stay connected. I try. And then sometimes the other side's like, oh no, I wasn't done talking. So this could absolutely just be like your father's parents, like, being like, oh, guess what? We're still here. I do feel like this maternal energy. Do you have her ring, or is there something important about the rings with her? Something that might be handed down, something that's important about the stones in particular?
That's more my grandmom. My dad's mother, yes. Very much into that. She just handed me a ring recently for opals.
Beautiful. This is just some validation that the other side sees that. Okay. And I do feel like, is there also a connection either to like a Stephen, Sarah, Suzanne, Suze, something around the very strong S initial? Or this also is my train connection. Anyone connected to trains? Anyone work on a train, conductor of a train, collect the trains? If not, my train is a symbol talking about a track that's already laid for us, which is AKA our path. But there has to be a conductor on that train. You can't just like let the train go by itself, because it will derail. I feel like this maternal energy on your husband's side is showing me you can always count on me to keep you on track, or to keep you centered on your path. So that's just something important to remember, and even to call on her during times where you're feeling like you have derailed, or your path is taking a weird turn that you're not expecting. Is there a George, Gary, Gloria, Grace, very strong G initial?
Gloria on my husband's side, yes.
Okay. Is Gloria crossed over?
No.
Okay. So is this maternal energy connected to her in some way?
It could be, yes.
Okay. So this could just be this energy. I'm gonna keep on asking for their name. They're not really showing it to me. So they're showing me everybody else around them, which is fine. Is there also a connection to New York for you? Anything around either New York, upstate New York?
Yes, my brother-in-law, my husband's brother and his fiance are living and working in New York. Yes.
Beautiful. This is just some validation that your family is out in New York with them. And what's beautiful to know is that energetically, when you are dead, you can be in a million different places at the same time, because you're no longer constricted to one space physically. Is there a dog that you had to put down, or is there something about the animals? Because I feel like there's a dog that just walked right in. Do you have the ashes of this dog, or is this dog like near? Okay, because I feel like this animal's like,
love that.
Oh, hey, I didn't go anywhere. And this dog shows up in your pictures often. Notice orbs and shadows closest to the ground, like where the dog might be, or if there's a part on the couch where the dog might have sat. Notice like physical imperfections in pictures, especially in videos. This dog sets off your cameras all the time. So there's motion cameras somewhere, and like you go to look on the camera and there's nothing there. It's this animal. A lot at night too. So just notice that. Your dog actually spiritually kind of shows me was on your path before. So this is what I like to think, that our animals, our souls, we re-recognize in this lifetime. I believe in reincarnation. And I believe that souls can reincarnate in any way, shape, or form. So our dogs could have been like your best friend in the past life. And I do feel like this animal is showing me the chapter that it died in was trying to take all of the pain and all of the difficulty back up to the light with it. So there might have been things that happened during the course of this dog's life that were some of the harder truths that you had to sit in. I do feel like, do you keep the collar next to the ashes, or is there something that you did something with the tags? Do you put the tags on a necklace or something?
Yeah, it's in my parents, but it's his ashes, and I think along with like photos.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Is there any connection to an R initial for you? Is there a Rocky, a Rose, Richie, something?
Rose, yes.
And how's Rose connected?
That's my grandmom, and she's not doing well.
Okay. This is the other side, totally acknowledging where she's at on her path right now. It's so important for you to know that your grandmother is being watched over. All right, let's say watched around. Sometimes we use the term watched over, and we think that there's in some far off galaxy. There's more heaven in a room than there is earth. This is my belief, is that heaven is everything outside anything physical we can see or touch. So I feel like she has a lot of loved ones kind of gathering around her. Sometimes when I get this symbolism, this could be the transition into the afterlife for them. And that transition may be coming sooner than later. Or this also could just be that their loved ones are seeing the issues that are going on. What's going on with her breathing? What's with her lungs?
I don't think I think her lungs are.
Is there something with asthma with her?
I think she does have. I think it's been getting worse. Yes,
this might be where I'm seeing restriction here. And when I see that too, this is some validation that her heart center is reworking itself. I also feel like, hold on a second. Is there a Christopher or Charles, very strong C initial?
Christopher's my husband.
Okay. Is he named after his dad or like a grandfather or something? Is there a namesake?
A middle name, yes.
Okay. So okay, thank you. Is there also a connection to somebody who either installs pools, uses excavators, digs big holes?
My dad, he's a plumber, but he's always doing sewer tyings. Yeah.
This might be some validation that this is your dad's side, is just being very, very nosy and chiming in.
There's so many there from the dad's side, unfortunately, all young. Yeah. But on Gina's little doggy, we're going to have to cut this short, Gina, because I haven't even introduced Kate yet. But Gina's little dog was wonderful to the family, hated me. I hated that little sucker. I'm teasing you, G. I would come in and he would pull my shoelaces and shoes off. If I was in my socks, he'd pull my socks off. I couldn't get near my brother. He would get upset. He was a bad boy, Gina.
She just said something very nosy and like chiming in. Like that sounds like Pop Up.
Jack Russell, one of those high energy doggies, but he couldn't stand me. So I'd come in and just kind of walk away from him. I'm teasing you, Gene. He was cute. But I always used to say that dog's a little sucker. So Gene, you'll get a copy of this reading when Howard gets done it. Okay, honey?
Okay, this was amazing. I don't want to stop.
I know. Well, thank you so much for connecting with me today. I really appreciate your open heart and your energy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Kisses. Bye, guys.
Bye, honey. Bye. Okay.
So that was a good reading. I'm listening, and yes, I'm glad you talked to her, because I did not realize, as much as I suffered, that the other kids in the family, the nieces and nephews, her cousins, were suffering until I talked to 3 of them. as after they got through their teenage years. And I went, oh my God, they're holding this. All these years they're holding this. If they had just told me, but they were reluctant to tell me because they didn't want to open a wound. But you know, that wound's always there. It's always there. So I'm glad she got some validation because she needed, that one needed it. She's a sensitive girl. But so people, you just saw reading that Kate hit many, many, many points. And I want to introduce Kate now. We're doing this backwards, but that's okay. Kate Howe is called the Connecticut Medium. She is a Reiki master, correct? She is a psychic medium. She gives courses in how to lift the veil. She's an angel therapy practitioner. She is in Connecticut. She does readings, as you see, either Zoom or you can go to her studio. She also does groups if you ever wanted to have a fundraiser or you, because I know many of us are in nonprofit, volunteers for nonprofit. And she started this, I think you got this gift, if you want to call it a gift, a lot of people won't, when you were young, and then when your mother unfortunately passed away, it kind of bloomed, I guess because of the connection. When Kate and I were on the phone, I had started to say earlier, sometimes we have a hard time getting people to come on the show because they think we're going to try to, what would you call it, not unjustify what they're doing or mock them. And when I was on the phone with Kate to set up the appointment, we were talking and I said, we are not, everyone at the station believes in the spiritual and the afterlife. And all of a sudden our phones, if you remember, Kate, cut out. And I'm like, what is that? And I could hear a voice, but it didn't sound like her. But I thought, well, maybe it's distorted. When it got clear again, she said to me, did you hear that? And I said, yeah, I thought it was on your end. She had an Apple Watch on. When I said, we all believe in the afterlife here, and the response was, well, we appreciate that. That was the response. Well, we appreciate that coming from the Apple. I'm like, okay. Well, that was the first indication. We're on the right path. But Kate, so how did you develop this gift? It is a gift. I mean, it might drive you crazy at times, but to make people feel happier or settled or not as guilty, that's a gift.
So, like you had mentioned, my mother passed away in 2003 from lymphoma, and it was a very devastating death in our life. She was a stay-at-home mom for 21 years. My dad is a very well-known businessman in Connecticut. When we lost her, our whole world had to shift. And we had a lot of spiritual conversations before she died, actually, that started this development. She was reinforcing a lot of truths about the other side. She showed me how the other side will send symbols. She talked about the angels. She reassured me that this path was not over for me just because she died. A few years later, we went to a medium, which we didn't know we were seeing a medium that day. My mom had set my dad up with a shaman actually before she died to just make sure my dad's energy was, taken care of spiritually in her transition. And I was really struggling. And my dad's like, you know what, Kate, why don't you take my appointment with this shaman? He's really helped me. Just go. So we ended up going to the shaman, but this woman named Patty Sinclair happened to be there that day. Nobody called us and told us that the shaman wasn't there, and she was a medium. She looked right at me and said, you have your gift back, right? And I kind of looked at her and I'm like, first of all, who are you? And why are you telling me I have a gift? Because I have no idea what you're talking about. And through this conversation, I started training with her. And it just blossomed. I felt like my mother's transition actually forced forward healing from a completely different portal I was not expecting in this lifetime. And through my training and through my work with people, I have learned a lot about psych. As I had mentioned, I was a mental health worker for 15 years on an inpatient psych unit with children and adolescents. And so I learned a lot about the head. I learned a lot about psychiatry. With my spiritual psychic background, I also was learning about sensitivity. And those two worlds collided, and I realized I couldn't be in both. And so in 2015, I decided to take a big leap of faith and leave the hospital and start this practice full time. I wasn't really sure what I was walking into. I just had to literally hone in on the universal laws and say, listen, I can't be in both worlds, and I really don't want to be in psych anymore. So this is my only other option. And with that said, the universe opened up beautiful portals for me. So over the last 6 years, I've been able to have an office. I've been able to connect with thousands of people through group readings, through individual sessions, through Zoom readings. COVID actually put the virtual world on my plate a little bit more because that was my only option for a year. And it made me realize how amazing spirit is, in the sense that you don't even have to be in the same room to connect. You can be across the world. I read somebody who was in Japan and was on a completely different day when she was connecting with me. And it made me realize that spirit is all around us all the time. We just have to be brave enough to accept the circumstances around the human experience and fully step in.
People forget. Yeah, they forget that they're here.
This is just a vessel.
Yeah.
And right. I like to remind people, your soul is inside this vessel. And 100 years on the earth is very quick in the spiritual realm.
Right.
So it's interesting because a lot of people that I've interviewed say the same thing. Started young, and then there was some issue that kicked them in, you know. And it's the same thing with you when I read your bio. I have a question for somebody who cannot call in, and I'm going to take notes. But her question merely is: she lost her husband young, and her constant dreams now are he's with another woman, and it's driving her crazy. And she wants to know if you have any indication of what that could mean, because that was not this man during life. You know, he didn't cheat. He didn't look for other women.
Literally, second you say that, he is with her in her younger years. So what she's actually seeing in her dream state is her younger self with him. I get the feeling that she's almost seeing herself. And when you have a dream, and it, you know, your younger self doesn't have to look like you in any way, shape, or form at all, because what she's actually connecting to is her younger soul self.
So you think this is her, she's looking at her younger self with him and being jealous. She was very jealous.
Well, this also might be his way of bringing that issue, if this is something about jealousy, to her conscious state, that this is something in her human lifetime she has to work on. And but the feeling that I get right when you say that is that it's her younger self with him. I encourage her to look at him and see what the activities are that they're doing, or see how they are together, because I feel like he's reflecting their love, not so much, you know, another person. When you die, you lose your ability to be a person. You're no longer a person. So for us to have dreams of our loved ones, they have to appear in a way that we recognize them as people. If her husband showed up as a golf ball, she wouldn't necessarily know that's him. But the fact that he's showing up in his physical form, she's like, oh, that's you.
Different part. There's somebody waiting on the phone, so we're going to take her, and then we'll come back to this, because this is really the one thing she thought was maybe he was telling her move on. I have, but it's breaking her heart. But Howard, can you put Jody through?
Hey, girl, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thanks, Jody. This is Kate. And Jody has a question for Kate. Kate's been hitting it right, left, and forward. So
Nice to meet you, Kate.
You too.
Thank you. Well, I have a lot of areas in my life that are pretty busy, and some are fairly complicated. And I want to know if there is any particular area in my life that I need to pay more attention to.
Self-care. First thing I hear, self-care. Not necessarily self-care for others, to be there for others, but internal self-care. I almost feel like right away your guides show me the conversations you have in your head are not the conversations that reflect your light. And you're very, very critical of yourself, which when you're critical of yourself, you become critical of your world. And very often we tend to focus on the critical parts of our world because it's something that we can hold on to that's concrete. If you start changing the conversation and the narrative in your mind, you're actually going to start seeing that your world will remain exactly the same but you will see it differently and it won't feel as heavy. I do feel like too, in your relationships, this is one thing I'm just feeling, have more confidence in yourself, have more confidence in who you are, what you bring to the table, that you are enough. You very often tell yourself you're not. You almost see yourself in a place of lack in almost every area, even the most like confident areas that you sit in. You still are like, well, I'm at like 97%. Like I still need like that other 3% to feel like I'm whole. You're actually whole right now. Like your soul is whole. It's whole. Like there's nothing missing. Your human doesn't know how to interpret the energy of it. That's the bigger part of it. So I do feel like the first hit I get for you is just that self-care. Now everyone thinks, oh, self-care, I'm going to exercise, lose weight, do my hair.
Yeah.
Okay. But actually the self-care I'm talking about is being able to comfortably sit with yourself on the couch and love the fact that you're with yourself. That's the kind of self-care I see for you. Is your dad crossed over?
Yes.
Because I feel like, I'm not going to get into a reading with him, but I do feel like his crossing brought a lot of insecurities around you or your life with him or something around his death. Kind of places itself in all areas of your life. And what I like to say, sneaks in the back door. So it doesn't have to be in the form of a person or a male, but it could be something around his death that you lost control over, or something that you regret, or something he regrets, or something that was difficult that I feel like daggers into other parts of your life, if that makes any sense.
It does. I didn't really have a relationship with my father, so.
And so that loss or that lack may show up in the lack of confidence standing on a stage, telling somebody about your gift or your talents.
Mhm.
And it just may play out in other ways, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I do feel like there's just one more thing I want to say to you. I do feel like there's something about nurturing that either you're really good at, but you have a hard time receiving it. So I kind of hear your guides saying, there is no way humanly possible you can do everything by yourself. You're going to need assistance from others. That's why we are made as a human, because humans are made to connect. If you think about the animal kingdom, all animals connect. You need a tribe. That's how you actually feel safe, is with a tribe who understands you. I just keep hearing for you, be it, I'm going to use the word better, but I don't want you to hear that you're doing something bad. Be a better receiver or more aware receiver of what you are actually giving out to the world.
Okay.
I hear that very strongly for you. And be kind to yourself and be patient with yourself. You're patient with other people, but you give yourself this much patience where you might give somebody else a world of patience.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So many women are like that, but Jody's a good friend. She does, I think, hold back a little bit. You know, we're very fond of each other, but I think when I met you, Jode, you held back a little bit the first few times we met. Yes?
I'm sorry, Connie, I can't hear you.
Oh, I said, yeah. I said the first time you meet people, you might hold back a little bit
Oh, absolutely.
because you held back with me. Then we got to be great friends. You know. And such a great person, but I think that you have a little wall up sometimes with people until you really get to know them. Yeah,
They have trust issues.
And that trust you often can come from, we can say as human, unfortunate circumstances in your universal world as being a human. You have not had a walk in the park of a life. You've had to rely on yourself a lot, but sometimes when we're too self-reliant, we become intimidated when others want to also have us rely on them for other parts of ourselves that we can't grasp or we can't see, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, you're a beautiful soul. You should be smiling more than you're frowning. And I just feel like, hey, see your light and acknowledge it.
well, I'll tell you, her telling me that she liked me was worth more than anybody else telling me because I said, ah, I made a dent in Jody. I made a dent. So that did help. Yeah, so Jody, did that help at all?
It did, absolutely.
Beautiful.
I
Well,
appreciate you.
No problem.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
So we're gonna. She's a good friend, but it was so funny because when we first met, she said, "I don't like people," and I'm like, "Uh-oh!" And then it took me a while to warm her up, and she's terrific. She's such a terrific woman. Single mom. She's a hard worker. Single mom, great mom, and volunteer, and she's just a terrific person. So back to this lady who's so worried about her husband seeing other women. I want her to have some comfort because it is starting to, she said it's every time she dreams about him. That's what she dreams. And she wants to know, what does it mean? And people have said to her, it means he wants you to move on. But I don't know. And she doesn't know. And she just wants to stop dreaming about it with us.
At the feeling that this is a perfect example where she's actually intimidated by her strength. So the fact that her energy does feel okay to move on does not mean her head feels okay to move on. Showing him in a new life or with a new partner can also represent not only a new partner for her, but a new life for her. After you lose a spouse, you have to rebuild and reconnect with yourself in a way that sometimes doesn't make sense. And if your whole identity has been with somebody, like my father had to learn how to rebuild who he was. He was married to my mom for 21 years. That's a long time to identify with another person and build a whole life, and then overnight have that be taken.
It was a shocking death, and she, in 15 or 16 years, has not dated, has not wanted to be. She had kids still at home. She raised them. She's still working. That she was a young widow. They had a great relationship, and I just want to say to her, it's my brother's wife. He's not looking at other women. He never looked at them when he was here. So.
And it's not symbolic of what we would say is like a reality-based situation. This is symbolic of feeling, of love, of connection, all the things that she feels that she has lost since he died. And
over her.
Of course, they don't want to be. My mom, listen, my mother said to me, Kate, heaven is far enough. I'm letting you know that little thin, I like to think we have like an aura around us and then heaven's outside of it. She said, Kate, that is far enough away, because in order to communicate with you, I'm going to have to literally push mountains every day just to say hi, for you to stand at the window and look out the window at that moment to see the bird and know that that was my way of saying hi in a conscious state. So this is his way of saying, I only have a few things I can work with right now because her grief is still so high around this. And so with that said, when your grief is high, we often feel more disconnected because we're in a place of protection, actually. Our ego's protecting us because it's too much. But I feel like he's just trying to give her that validation, like, I can't be anywhere but here. It's the only place I can be.
Okay, I'm going to make sure she sees this portion. So in closing, you've been fantastic, but I want you to talk about how people can get a hold of you.
Oh, absolutely. My favorite part. So you can absolutely visit my website, www.thectmedium.com. I am all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of the CT Medium. You also can email, and I'll just say the email in case somebody has a pen out. Vincent@thectmedium.com is the best way to get in touch. To schedule, so scheduling appointments, if you go to my website, there is another link that will bring you directly to my calendar. Right now, I'm pretty booked out. I believe May is my next appointment. But I do offer, like Connie had said, group sessions. I'm booking into the summer for private groups and venues. I'm fully booked for April and May. And
if you are good for singular sessions, are you earlier open? April, well, this will run also
May. End of April, beginning of May, if for individual sessions at my office. My office is located in Gales Ferry, Connecticut, about a mile from the sub base. That kind of gives people an idea of where that might be, in Groton. And I would love to connect with more people this year. And hopefully, if any of these sessions or any of the things that have been said, and I believe in universal law, so if you find yourself watching this, you were guided to do that, and there's probably something that was said that resonated with
There's
you.
already you caught that day. Yeah, I believe that too. So I'm going to close and say I appreciate the time you've spent with us. I'm going to be making a private appointment, and
Awesome.
for there's particularly for Gina, she was very emotional because I lost 3 out of 4 brothers, bad ways. My only daughter, my only child, my father, her grandmother suffering dementia, my mother suffering dementia. So she really needed that comfort, and I'm sure that you provided it. And people, that's what mediums do. They can bring you the message from people who are looking over you, saying it's all right. You got protection. We're here. And I would love to find out who was talking to me through your watch. Was it your side or mine? All right. So thank you for joining us, and
No,
I'll see you soon again.
sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it was delightful. Thank you, Kate.